Okay, welcome back. We're going to talk about the second part of our review. So we're going to start off with number 10. Oh, hold on. Okay, sorry. So number 10. So we have ln of x minus 5 plus ln of x equals 2. Now my goal is to solve this for x. So with ln, in addition, I combine that through multiplication. So I'll go ahead and take x times both of these, and we'll get x squared minus 5x equals 2. In order to get rid of ln, we'll take the e, okay, the base e of both sides, so that cancels, okay, and we'll get x squared minus 5x. That's supposed to be, oh, not there. That's supposed to be an x there, equals e squared. And this is a quadratic formula, so we'll move everything to one side. So I get x squared minus 5x minus e squared equals 0. And we can't factor this because e squared is a decimal. So what we'll do is we'll take that and we'll plug it into the quadratic formula. So we get y equals negative x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, which is negative e squared, all over 2a, which is 1. So then we're going to get 5 plus minus, that'll be a 2 down there. And you'll have to put that into this part into the calculator. And when you do so, make sure you're putting in lots of parentheses with everything. And you're going to get plus minus 7.386, and it keeps going on forever. So we'll keep using that answer when we plug it back in. So then you'll get x equals 6.19 and negative 1.19. Okay, so that's what x is. But we need to make sure we go back and plug both of these in to this original equation, because when we plug in this negative 1.19 right here, it doesn't work out because this has to be a positive number. So we'll mark that one out, and our answer is 6.19. Number 11 is pretty similar. Okay, so we need to get our logs on the same side. So we'll say log of x squared minus 4 minus log of x minus 2 equals 1. Now with subtraction, we combine logs with division. Oop, that's a minus 2 equals 1. Okay, now to get rid of this log, which has a base of 10, we're going to take both sides to the base of 10. So that'll cancel. You'll get x squared minus 4 over x minus 2 equals 10 to the first, which is 10. Now there's two different ways we can solve this. So we're going to multiply the whole thing by x minus 2 to get rid of my fraction. So then I'll get x squared minus 4 equals 10x minus 20. Again, this is a quadratic because I have x squared, so we'll move everything to one side. So we have x squared minus 10x plus 16 equals 0. I need factors of 16 that add to 10, which are 8 and 2. Signs are the same. They're both negative. So we have x equals 8 and 2. Again, we need to check both of those solutions, because if we check 2 right up here, 2 minus 2 would be 0, and I can't have 0 in there. We could also look down here. 2 minus 2 is 0, and I can't divide by 2, so we need to mark that one off. Okay, number 12 says find the distance and midpoint between -3, 4, 1/6, and 1/5, -2/3. Okay, midpoint is just the average of your x's and the average of your y's. So we'll add them up and divide by 2. Okay, so we have -3/4 plus 1/5 divided by 2. And we have 1/6 plus -2/3 divided by 2. Okay, and just put this in on the calculator, and you'll get -11/40 and -1/4. That is the midpoint between the two. The distance formula, which both of these are on the formula sheet that you get, is using the Pythagorean theorem and finding the distances between your x's and your y's. So you'll just subtract the two, going in the same direction. Okay, so -3/4 minus 1/5 squared plus 1/6 minus -2/3 squared. Okay, again, you'll put this into the calculator. If you can get if you can hit math fraction and get back a fraction, definitely do that. But I think this one's such a large fraction, so we'll leave it as that decimal there. Okay, number 13 is kind of long. We have f of x equals -x plus 1, and g of x equals 2x squared plus 1. Okay, and then we have some operations that they want us to do with it. So we'll take f of g of x, okay, which is the same as writing f of g of x. So we're going to take this g of x function and plug it into f. So I have negative, and then your g function, and then the ending of your f function. So we'll distribute the negative. We have -2x squared minus 1 plus 1, which cancels. So I have -2x squared. G of f of x is the reverse of that. So we're going to have g of f of x. So we're going to plug the f function into where g is. So we'll have 2 parentheses -x plus 1 squared plus 1. So then here we have to FOIL this out. So we'll have 2, and then that'll be x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 1. Distribute your 2. So I kind of got to go up here. You'll have 2x squared minus 2x plus 2 plus 1. So that's 2x squared minus 2x plus 3. That's your answer. F plus g of x. So here you're just going to add the two functions together. Okay, so you have 2x squared minus x plus 2, and that's it. You're not going to set this equal to 0. You're not going to multiply by this x. The only reason this x here is here is to tell you what variable you're going to use inside of your function. So then we have g of minus 2. So you're going to put minus 2 into the g function. Make sure you follow the correct order of operations, and you will get out 9. We have f g of x. So here we're multiplying the two together. So we have, what is that, 2x squared plus 1. Okay, so we'll FOIL all that out. So we'll have -2x to the third plus 2x squared minus x plus 1. If you need to, you'll have to combine like terms on that. but in that case I didn't. So g minus f, so we'll subtract the 2, g coming first, minus negative x plus 1. So make sure you put this in parentheses because your negative goes to everything inside there. That's plus x minus 1. Your 1's cancel out, and you have 2x squared plus x. Okay, so that's 13. Number 14. It says find all the zeros. So you have f of x equals x4 minus 4x to the third plus 4x squared minus 36x minus 45. Okay, so to be a zero just simply means where is this graph, where is this equation crossing my x-axis? Okay, and I'm looking for 4 of them. So in the end, I'll have x equals 4 different numbers. Okay, well, the easiest way, there's a lot of ways we can do this, but the easiest one we talked about is if we just graph this equation here. Okay, so we're going to go to y equals, we'll input this equation. We'll input that equation in, and we'll hit graph. And I want to see where is that thing covering, where does it go over your x-axis? Okay, well, it looks like it goes over the x-axis at -1 and 5. So we'll go to our table, we'll punch in -1, and notice I get 0. And then we'll punch in 5, and I'll also get 0. Okay, so that tells me that they are indeed zeros. Okay, so if I go back here, okay, you'll say -1 and 5. You might put from calculator, just so I know that you're not pulling that number out of nowhere. Okay, and then we'll use that to do some synthetic division. So 1 minus 4, 4, negative 36, negative 45. We know that my remainder will already be 0. So we'll go through, so bring the first one down, multiply, add, you'll multiply, you'll add down, multiply again, add, you get negative 45, and multiply to get 45, add again, you get 0. So that was -1. We got to do the same thing with 5. So bring down the first, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply one last time, and you get 0. Now this is what is left, because remember I'm looking for 4, and I only have 2. Okay, so this is your constant. That's x squared. So you have x squared plus 9 equals 0. So I got to solve this. I want to know, when does this x plus 9 equal 0? So subtract 9. X squared equals -9. Square root both sides, and you get x to be plus minus 3i. Okay, so there's all 4 of your zeros. Now this one we're not able to see on the graphing calculator. Okay, that's why we have to do the whole synthetic division with that number. So number 15, solve 2 to the 2x plus 3 equal, -1 equals 11. So I need to get the exponential on a side all by itself. So we'll add 1. Those cancel. We get 2 to the 2x plus 3 equals 12. I have to get rid of this base exponential of 2. So we're going to take the log base 2 of both sides. Okay, so log base 2 and 2 cancel. You have 2x plus 3 equals log base 2 of 12. So then you'll subtract 3 and divide by 2. Now, when you put this into the calculator, not all calculators can handle this different base. Okay, so you might have to do log base 12 over log base 2, or sorry, log of 12 over log of 2 minus 3 over 2, and use that change of base formula. And again, you get a decimal with this one, 2.925, when you put that in there. So make sure you're putting this in the calculator correctly and you're watching all your parentheses and that sort of thing. So find the equation of smallest degree with zeros, 1 multiplicity of 2, 0 multiplicity of 1, and I. Well, if I is a 0, then negative I is also a 0. Okay, so this tells me that x equals 1, x equals 1, x equals 0, x equals I, and x equals minus I. So those are the zeros. And if those are the zeros, I need to know the factors. Okay, so this factor would be x minus 1, x minus 1, x, x minus I, and x plus I. Okay, so all I have to do is FOIL all this stuff out. So if I FOIL this section out right here, we'll get x squared minus 2x plus 1. And we'll move this x out front. And then when I do this one's a little bit tricky. We'll have x squared minus xi plus xi minus I squared. Well, I squared is negative 1, but it's minus a negative 1. So that's a plus 1, and that cancels and that cancels. So distribute that x in there, x to the third minus 2x squared plus x. And then you have x squared plus 1. Then you have a little bit more multiplication to do. So we'll have x to the 5th minus 2x to the 4th plus x squared. Sorry, x to the 3rd plus x to the 3rd minus 2x squared plus x. So just combine these two right there. X to the 5th minus 2x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd minus 2x squared plus x. All right, number 17, the last one. So I have 6 over x plus 8 over x plus 5 equals 3. Now the first thing I'm going to want to do is get rid of all of my fractions. So I'm going to multiply the whole thing by my common denominator, okay, which is x plus 5. So when I take this times this first term, my x's cancel, and I get 6x plus 5, plus, when I multiply here, my x plus 5's cancel, and I get 8x, and nothing cancels with this, so I get 3x, x plus 5. Okay, then we'll distribute everything out. 6x plus 30 plus 8x equals 3x squared plus 15x. Again, it's a quadratic because I have x squared. So I'll move everything to one side. Minus 8x and minus the 6x. So you get 0 equals 3x squared plus x minus 30. Okay, so I need to use the quadratic formula, or I can factor this. Okay, so let's change colors and let's factor this. So we're going to take 3 times 30 and get 90. Okay, so I need factors of 90 that subtract to 1. That's 9 and 10. So we're going to break down 3. That's 1 and 3. We're going to break down 30. That's 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Okay, so we're going to use 1 and 3 and 3 and 10. So 1 times 10 was 10, and 3 times 3 was 9. So I have 0 equals, my parentheses will have 3x and x. I took 3 times a 3, so it goes over there, and the 1 times a 10. Signs are different. The bigger one is positive, so that's a positive 10 and a negative 9. So now I set each one of those equal to 0, and I get x to be negative 3/10. Sorry, negative 10 thirds and 3. The last thing I want to do is check those and make sure they're solutions. I notice that I don't have a 0 or -5 that would make those zeros on the bottom. So those two should be good solutions. Again, there are 5 true-false questions on the test and an extra credit question. So hopefully this review helped a little more. Again, if you got questions, please come in and ask before or after school. As always, this is @THS Mr. Jones signing off.